Give me a mallet. No, I'm good. I'm good. How you guys all doing? Okay. So I'd like to get a bit of background information on you guys, find out where you guys are at. Who here has seen Bursting Bubbles of Government Deception? Who's seen The Magnificent Deception? Who here hasn't and has no idea what I'm talking about when I say you're not a person? So we're all on the same page in that regard. Okay, folks, first I want to thank you guys for bringing me out here. It sure is an honor to walk in a room and have a bunch of people go, wow, who? And like you just showered? That's pretty cool in my book. To me, it says showering is good. I should do it more often. We are living in some pretty exciting times, aren't we? And we've got some exciting stuff happening. To back it out, just for the people for that tape, Bursting Bubbles of Government Deception, to recall what it basically says is you are not a person, you have a person. This person exists in association with you. It evidences certain things. This person is what the government acts upon. You have the power to disassociate from that, and if you do so, the government's ability to act on you is severely restricted. In The Magnificent Deception, essentially the message there was that your social insurance number means you're a government agent, a government employee. You are working for a corporation. That corporation has rules that are applicable to its employees, and these rules are applicable to you for that reason. Today I got an email from the Law Society of British Columbia. Apparently they've secured an order against me in the Supreme Court of British Columbia, where I'm not even allowed to talk to you like this because you might think it's legal advice and I'm talking to the person with an expectation of a fee or a gain or a reward. So that's what was on mine, but I get a bunch of cool emails, eh? I got another one a couple days ago. I'm just a guy trying to study the law. I'm a Canadian figuring it out. If I'm a little bit shinier than others, it's just because I got a big loud mouth. I grew up with 6 sisters. What can you do? But I got an email from this person saying, oh, you know what? To me, you're like a hero. You're almost a superhero. And I'm getting a bit of notoriety that I never really expected. And I realized I am, in fact, a superhero. Because I have a superhero name. I have a superhero costume. I wear it under my regular clothes all the time. I can jump into that persona at any moment. I am Naked Man. This represents my bum. This doesn't. Okay, you want more honesty there? You happy? Folks, we're living in some funny times, and this show that I want to teach you now, the next one, the third stage, I call With Lawful Excuse. There are, in fact, tools you have available to you. Your big problem, everyone is here because they are unhappy with a couple of things. Government and courts. Essentially, that's what everyone's problem is. What if you had the power to disobey them? To simply say, no, I'm not giving you any of my power, I'm not accepting that you have any power over me, and what if there were tools available to you that would allow you to do this? We do have these tools. It's called With Lawful Excuse, and I'll share with you a couple of some of the ways. I don't want to blow my own horn, but I do want you to see the power and authority that's available to you when you use this process. All of this is verifiable, you can check it. There's a guy by the name of George Platt, I believe is his name. I'd have to check it out. He was in Nanaimo. He's a sustenance hunter. He was going out into the bush and hunting without a permit or a license. He came across one of the forest rangers, essentially, and the guy took his gun. He said, well, I'm going to keep hunting. And the guy who took his gun said, I'm going to keep taking your gun. And he said, well, you'll do that until I'm down to my last gun. And then all you're taking are the bullets. You're not taking my last gun. They didn't like this. They went and they talked to the RCMP. RCMP descended on his home. They took all of his guns. They took all of his ammo. They took his marijuana grow-op. They brought 12 charges to bear against him, everything from owning unregistered firearms, unlawful storage of the firearms, growing the marijuana, everything. I set him up with a notice of understanding and intent and a claim of right, which is what you use to establish your lawful excuse. The guy ended up serving it on them, pointed out that they stole his property and they were liable for it, better return it, made a demand under section 337. He ended up getting called into court or into the conference center a week before court. They wanted him to sign an agreement. He called me, I said, you go ahead and sign that, when he told me what it was. They gave him back all of his equipment. The pot that he was growing, they had destroyed that, they couldn't return that. All firearms, all ammunition, all equipment was returned to him, and all he had to agree to was that when he was in the bush hunting, that if he saw an officer, he just wouldn't talk to him. All of it went away and he just stood back. This is the power we have. People are using this across the country because there are fundamental truths that we seem to forget when they get us playing their game. And these truths are foundational. They're just human beings and they're just using words. That's all they are, that's all they're using. They are not better human beings. They have no more inherent power over you. Their words might be a little bit ambiguous and tricky at times, but that doesn't mean they're any more powerful than yours, especially if you're speaking your truth. Looking into the criminal code, this is what I ended up finding. If you go through section 15 of the criminal code, do we have internet access here or anything? I could find it on my computer, but essentially what it says is this. It says that if someone obeys an order of a de facto court or government, they can't be put in jail. Fair enough? Now, in the absence, now let's analyze this, and this is because if you just read it and you don't actually start thinking about it, what does this mean? You're not going to see the remedy that they're hiding right there. It's right in front of your face. Let's suppose section 15 did not exist. Then you could put someone in jail for obeying the order of a de facto court or government. But now you can't do that. Now, in the absence, you could be thrown in jail for obeying and therefore not thrown in jail for not obeying. Fair enough? A and B, A means jail, B means no jail. Now they're saying A does not mean jail. Fine. Where does it now say that B now means jail? Where does it say that you can in fact be incarcerated or punished for disobeying the order of a de facto court? Something which in the absence of section 15 was the given. They don't. You're dealing with de facto governments, de facto courts. All they have done is taken away our power to charge them for obeying a de facto order. There's nothing there that says you can be put in jail for disobeying it. And that is one step in your claim of right. Now the notice of understanding and intent in the claim of right. I'll show you these sections of the law and the way I uncovered them that said, holy mackerel, this is amazing. Once you understand what section 15 is saying and what it's not saying, more importantly, look to section 38 and 39. Oh yeah, there you go. Someone's been listening to me. 38 and 39 talks about defense of personal property. And actually, I'll digress here for a moment. I'll show you how this has been used in New Zealand, Australia, Canada, any of the Commonwealth countries. This is effective and it works. There was a guy in New Zealand, what they were doing in New Zealand, corporations were going around and making offers for property from people who had been holding it in their family for hundreds of years. Thousands of years even. They said, no, we don't want your offer. But that offer then raised the property value, raised the taxes. The municipality would come in and lay a demand for taxes that the family couldn't pay. They would end up losing their property and go on the auction. The corporation that made the initial offer would then come in and scoop it up at the market value that existed before the offer was made. They were in collusion, it looked like, from the corporations. So a young guy, a 21-year-old Maori kid, went out and he essentially went to what we would call Crown land. And he built a home on it. And he said, screw you, I'm living here, and he had his family there. The developers and the municipality didn't like him doing that. They took him to court. The court ordered him, tear down your property in 30 days or you're going to jail for 6 months. He didn't know what to do. He spoke to a friend of mine. I told him how to use a claim of right, looked into the statutes there. He then served a notice of understanding and intent and a claim of right on the corporation, on the court. He went back in 30 days later. He didn't tear down his home. The court said, it's my understanding you haven't torn down your home as you were ordered. You better have a very good reason. He said, I do. I have lawful excuse. Here it is. I have a claim of right. In the New Zealand Crimes Act, it specifically states that you can disobey if you have a claim of right. In Canada, it uses lawful excuse. He then pointed out to the judge that theft, the definition of theft, was a removal of property without a claim of right. He said, here's mine, you don't have one, and if you try to take it, you're committing theft and you're liable. The judge immediately overturned his order, and that man stayed on his property. He did not tear down this house. The power that we have with a claim of right is the power to establish lawful excuse to disobey any order of any court or any government statutes, regulations, orders, or bylaws. It will not allow you to harm another human being, damage property, or use fraud in your contracts, but it does allow you to look at these people who make demands on you and say no. If you then look, and this is established in the Canadian Criminal Code, section 3839, it talks about defense of personal property. It talks about defense of personal property in two situations. One where you have a claim of right, and two where you don't. If you don't have a claim of right, you're limited in how you can act. If you do have a claim of right, you can use whatever level of force or violence is necessary to protect that property, even against someone who feels they have a lawful claim to it or a lawful right, like cops enforcing court orders. You have the power to hold whatever property you want under a claim of right, and then if any cop comes and says, well, I've got a court order to seize it, you can say, I've got a claim of right that squashes that court order, and if you try touching it, you're breaking the law. And this is where the power really comes in. You can point out, under section 39, you can appoint anyone you want to protect your property for you, and that's what peace officers are for. You can appoint the very peace officers that the court would be using to come and take your property to defend your property. And when the courts come and say, oh, now you go take that property, sorry, I'm already appointed under section 39. I can't do that. And you gum up their gears in a very big way by doing this, and we've done it in Nova Scotia. Now, whether or not the claim of right establishes a lawful excuse, what we need to determine is whether or not that's the truth. If you look at section 138 and 139, it specifically mentions that we have the right. It talks about disobeying a court order or a government statute. Now, they don't come out and give you the truth. They try to hide it, kind of like, if you don't have lawful excuse. They don't want you to see the truth here, but the truth is, if they're talking about disobeying these court orders, and they say you're disobeying it, here, I'll read it verbatim. 126, 127. Disobeying a statute. Oh, cell phone's off unless you want me answering it. Disobeying a statute. Everyone who, without lawful excuse, contravenes an act of Parliament by willfully doing anything that it forbids or by willfully omitting to do anything that it requires to be done is, unless a punishment is expressly provided by law, guilty of an indictable offense and liable to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 2 years. So they're trying to scare you with the idea they can throw you in jail. But what they don't want to tell you about is the without lawful excuse. So what is a lawful excuse? By looking, there's a number of different things. If you're to save a human life, if it's an impossibility, if it's there's a number of different ways you can establish the lawful excuse. Color of right is one, but one of the most powerful ones is a claim of right, where you come flat out and you tell these people making the rules, listen, I'm claiming the right to do this in contravention of that. Now, I know you've got these words, but I'm saying they don't apply to me. What do you say about that? If they don't respond, you have essentially, all they are your representatives trying to talk to you, or your neighbor's representatives. So if you call them on that and you create a situation where you can, from here to the face of God essentially, claim that you have the power to disobey them because you're fulfilling your own spirit. You're doing what your faith compels you to do, and you're not following their words because that just doesn't go with your heart. That right there is a proper lawful excuse, being compelled by faith. So essentially what we do is we generate that lawful excuse with the claim of right. When I studied this stuff, I then looked to the other statutes in New Zealand and Australia. The exact same words are used in the New Zealand Crimes Act of 1961, but they don't say without lawful excuse, they say without a claim of right. It's all right there. And when I saw that, I went, okay, now I got you. We have the power to do these things. However, if you do, you must accept a certain higher level of personal responsibility. Essentially, right now, if you are out there asking for permission to engage in lawful activities, the government is looking at you as a child. You are their ward, their child. They must take care of you. They must make sure that you aren't pooping your pants, or if you are pooping your pants, you're not tracking it where everyone's going to walk. Everything they do is a result of your consent. You cannot say, oh, the government's done this, the government's done that, and I'm angry about it, without pointing out that if you look at it carefully, you will see that you consented to this every step of the way. We are the owners. This is why I'm here in Ontario. I'll blow you away now. What if each and every one of you are worth about $10 million? What if you had a rich uncle who died and left you stock with Microsoft, and that stock was worth $10 million? Now, what if the lawyer who was taking care of your uncle's estate was holding on to it himself, didn't really tell you about it, and was collecting the dividends and exercising the voting shares or the voting power? Canada, as we know, is a corporation. If you check it out, Canada is registered under the Security Exchange Commission as a corporation. If it's a corporation, there must be shares. This is a common law country. It is the people of Canada and the permanent residents or the immigrants who own these shares. You are a share owner of the Corporation of Canada. You are not holding it. Hey, do you have a wallet? Can I hold on to it for you? I promise to take really good care of it, and the money in it, you know what? I'll make sure you get 10%. Well, I'll keep your wallet safe and shiny. This is essentially what they're doing. We have the right to be not only a shareholder, or a share owner, but the holder of that share as well. Section 337 of the Criminal Code is one of the most powerful sections you will find. It speaks about our ability to demand the return of anything which is being held by someone on our behalf by virtue of the fact that they're a member or an employee of the government. The Federal Minister of Finance is acting as your shareholder. He's operating in trust. The moment you demand it, these shares must transfer back to you. The ability to vote on it. Who here has heard of the North American Union? Security Prosperity Partnership? That's where, you know, the United States Security and the Canadian Prosperity, they're going to get switched. And the Canadian Prosperity flows there. We're going to have American soldiers on our streets, and it won't matter if you're a free man on the land. It won't matter what you know about the law. They're going to have high-powered weapons, and dude, bullets don't bounce off you just because you're a free man. They are using your votes, your shares, and exercising the vote in it. All it is a corporate merger. Any union, any partnership, it's just like a corporate merger between Microsoft and Apple, but you're not holding your own shares. You've got no vote. You are entitling someone else to do all of this for you. These shares, the value of the shares is a function of the value of Canada, its mineral resources, how wisely we extract them, and the number of people in Canada. Basic math. From what I read, a woman about 5 years ago went to Supreme Court in British Columbia, secured these shares, and they were worth $8 million. I'd be saying they're worth between 10 and 13 million now based on the market and what we have and the way the world is going. They're generating between 4 and 10% per annum. That's getting paid out in dividends just like every Microsoft stock is. It's registered under the SEC. They have to pay out the dividends quarterly. Your federal representatives are playing with these stock collecting the dividends. You have the power to demand them, hold them, and you can collect $200,000 to $400,000 a year. Now, at what point do you then instead of being tricked into being an employee of a corporation and bound by the rules that bind the corporation, you're now a free man on the land, you're bound only by the law, you distinguish between the two, and you're no longer just a share owner, you're a stockholder with power to vote, collecting your dividends. This is the whole game they're hiding. This is the entire, once they start seeing it, this is where all the value comes from, and this is how they are going to justify the North American Union and the Security and Prosperity Partnership. They are voting on a union, they are voting on a merger, and they have the power to vote because you have not exercised your power to demand your own shares and stand on guard for a bit of a cliche there. This is the power we have, and this is, I'm leaving Ontario with my securities. If you look at, and they hide it so well, right in your face. When I saw this, then someone pointed out, hey, read the Bill of Rights again. Section 1A. Do you know what Section 1A says? You have the right to life, liberty, and check it, the security of the person. They don't say safety, they don't say protection. And what is it? A securities market. What is a security legally speaking? It's a stock, it's a bond, it's a share certificate. When they say security of the person, they are talking about an actual physical document as real as this thing I'm holding in my hand. It's worth a whole lot of money, and you've got the right to demand it, and it's right there in the very first sentence of the Bill of Rights. I've got a lawyer sister. She works for the federal government. I brought this right to her. I said, listen, if I'm wrong, I'm going to be harming, and I'm going to be creating a lack of peace. You work for a corporation. Are there shares? Do we own it? Can I demand it? Yes, yes, and yes. Rob, you're too smart for your own good. The Federal Minister of Finance has a duty under Section 337 to release that share to you if you demand it. He doesn't have to unless you do. It's there. I spoke with the Minister of Finance's office today, and I explained exactly who I was, what I wanted to do. And they did not dispute it, and then they said, okay, I'll connect you with someone, and boom, and they put me with the general answering machine for the Finance Department. But that'll be on YouTube too. Dudes, we're all worth millions. We're all worth millions. We've got all of this stock, all of the value that it's extracted from Canada. That's being administered by these people operating with the stock. It's just a corporation extracting the value from Canada, and you own it, but you're not holding it, and that's the big problem. And the moment you do, all of your concerns about, oh well, I can't pay my mortgage, I'll pay it with my first dividend check. Plus, after that, the way I look at it, you can't just draw from it and say mine, 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 mine. Although there are, if you go to a lot of countries, they do this. Saudi Arabia, Dubai, every citizen there gets a big fat check. I think Dubai last year was about $250,000. Here you are, and that's their share from the extracted resources. It's the exact same thing happening here, except you're not holding your stock. That's all it is. Someone is holding your Microsoft stock, and you should be holding on to that, because they're using those dividends to mess with you right now. You can take that money, be empowered over them. You disempower them because they don't have all the money to play with now. Imagine what it would do to your economy and to your life in general. How much of us, how much energy do we put out just trying to make ends meet? What if you could collect 400 grand a year, say, okay, I need this to live, there's 100 grand, now I have 300 grand left, I'm splitting it in half. And the way I liken it, you pull a bucket from the well, it's a full bucket, you pour half back, and as long as everyone does that, we always collect full buckets. But now you have, say, 100 grand, and this is your taxes that you're spending. And you get to decide, okay, you know what, I like libraries, I'm putting some money in libraries. I like the RCMP this year, I'll give you some money. Yeah, defense, and you pick and choose where your money goes. Imagine the level of accountability you could enjoy. The RCMP, they start tasering immigrants in the airports. Guess what, mister? Next year, you get nothing. This is our ability, our level of accountability, where it actually brings, if you, I don't know who believes in God, I'll tell you, my hat should be telling you what my beliefs are. We have a right to peace and abundance. When we seize life, liberty, the security of the person, you're going to enjoy a level of abundance and empowerment that is beyond anything you imagined when you walked through that door. You didn't know the stock existed, you didn't know you could demand it, and you had no idea what the value of it was, and yet you all smelt it. Who here wants to seize their stock?
Help us fill out
She's like, oh, I gotta get my nails done. It's very easy to do. Using a notice of understanding and intent and a claim of right. And we've got these documents available. They're available online. We've got packages if you want to purchase them and they'll support us. But so you know, the information is freely available and you don't have to pay us for it. I want a nation full of free men. I want a nation full of stock-holding free men. And this Nazi tide that I see coming up from the south, I want to kick that right in the nuts. We have a remedy. We have the law on our side. And the way to do it is to make it's a very simple document. Excuse me, I picked up a cold on the plate. Essentially, all you're going to do before you act, you're going to serve a notice. A notice of what your understanding is, a notice of what your intent is. It's an offer to discuss and negotiate, and you're going to be talking to the people who are operating this corporation. You're going to be talking to them about how they're a corporation, there must be shares, and someone owns it. And if it's not you, if it's some foreign power, we're slaves. And that can't be the case because it's common law. You own those shares. Your birth certificate, the number on the back, I had mistakenly called it a bond tracking number. The bond is that which is floated, supported by the share stock, or by the stock or the shares. It might not be a bond technically, but it is a security. Bonds, shares, stocks, all of these are types of securities. So I might have, and they're saying, oh, there's no bond associated with that. Fair enough. There's certainly a security associated with it. That birth certificate evidences the security and the trust relationship that you have with the federal government. And by redeeming it, by presenting it, you can say, give me back my share. The trust is done. I want my security. Once you have your notice of understanding and intent and you claim the right to do this, you let them, give them 30 days to dispute it. This is the process that we're using here. If they don't dispute it, and we're using the Queen is the first one getting notice of this. She's the defender of the faith. We're engaging in an action which is very good for Canada. It supports and it fulfills the faith from our perspective. What we're doing in our claim of right, we're essentially saying, look, the Queen's here, and all of you people are down here serving her. And now I'm serving notice on the Queen that I'm equal with her. So if she doesn't dispute, and you're aware of me doing this action, guess what? After that, I'm above you. I'm at the same level as the Queen, and you have no more power over me than you would over the Queen. And she's ready for that. There's a guy by the name of Jack Harper. We've had some exciting stuff happen. Jack Harper, a guy in Saskatchewan, went through and he used the notice of understanding and intent to claim of right. He established his free man status. The week after he did that, the entire Supreme Court of Canada, all 9 justices, flew to Saskatchewan to meet with the Premier, the Chief Justice of the courts there, the head of the Law Society, and a whole bunch of other people, and they had a nice little meeting. Publicly, it was about people representing themselves in court, is what they said it was about. So they had this meeting, flew back 3 days later, or 3 days next weekend, something like that, but within a very short period of time, the Lieutenant Governor, the Queen's representative, flew to Britain. All of this unannounced, all of this unscheduled, and last minute, flew to Britain and spent 3 days, went to Buckingham Palace, spoke with the Queen, came back. The letters that we're giving to her, we're not saying, screw you, we hate you. We're bringing her an attitude saying, you know what, thank you very much. You've taken care of us while we were asleep. You put diapers on us when we were pooping our pants. We're done doing all that. Now give me my shares. We're equal. You've been defending the faith. Good for you, but now I'm awake. And now that I'm awake, guess what? This country is mine. And you better get your little agents in line, and you better tell them, don't mess with me. And they're responding. And Jackie Harper now, he's traveling all over the place. He's got a three-man plate on there, no permit, no license. And, oh yeah, really. And there's been a number of people who have done this. I've got emails from 6 or 7 people. One specifically, he's been at this for like 12 years. It's cost him 4 or 5 vehicles. He's gone to jail for 90 days. It cost him 16,000 bucks. He never gave up. He used the notice of understanding and intent and the claim of rights, something he had never done before, and by this, they now let him go. That is the key to the door. Now, if I may, I'm going to talk a little bit about spirit, and I'm probably the least qualified to talk about it. But this is more than just an understanding of law. This is all about understanding who you are in the universe and why the people in the government have no power over you when you're doing it properly. It's not just about knowing what the words mean. It's about knowing who you are spiritually. If you imagine for a moment, it's a very simple concept, what you have to do. Think of the Wizard of Oz. The Wizard of Oz had some very, very wise sayings there. I mean, you can go try talking to a wizard who's going to have all the answers. There are no wizards. There are no real answers. There are no evil witches or flying monkeys you have to go fight. You can be free at any time, and there's 3 simple little clicks of the heels. These 3 little simple clicks are all very, very easily. First thing you must realize is that this is not about using your brain and understanding these words. This is all about heart. They get out of your way when they see the heart. You will find the truth that you need by looking more into your own heart than you will by listening to my words. I swear to God, that's the truth. I can shine a light on the path, but it's your heart that's going to actually create that path. The second one is, we all have essentially different fundamental truths in our own heart. Imagine Willie Nelson loves music, right? His basic truth is music. Playing music is his truth. Excuse me. He was messed over by the IRS. Do you think if he had a choice between playing songs for the IRS or saying no, but maybe losing his music, what do you think he would do? He would play, wouldn't he? Yeah. That fundamental truth within us all, there is that. You have to peel your own heart open, figure out what your truth is. And then when you're acting on that truth, they will recognize it. Arguing about what these words mean. When I peeled my heart back, I found that fundamentally I thought humor was it. And then I went, no, humor, there's truth still. And then there was justice. Justice is very important to me, and then by the time I got right down to the bottom, it's the one thing where when I mess up, I know it and it hurts me. And to me, that's compassion. I know a peace officer, a cop, for him it's peace. I know a justice of the peace, for him it's justice. I know a notary, for him it's truth. I know a lawyer, for him it's honor. There a musician is for music. Within your own heart, there is a simple fundamental truth that if you seize on that, it's going to be like an invitation from God to go to a party. And if you have that invitation, these people who are trying to block the party, who are guarding it, they see it, they will stand back. It's a whole different game when they see that you are operating with something in your heart, instead of just anger and a desire for more money or frustration at their words. You become far, far more powerful. The third little click, and this is, you have been deceived. So the first click is your heart figuring out that. The second click, and this is the worst one, this is the hardest one. We all know we've been deceived. Is that correct? Who's responsible for that? You must accept fully and completely responsibility for having been deceived. Accept that they used your ignorance, your fear, and your greed every time. It was that they were they're just trolling. They put a worm on a hook and then you went after it. No one ever forced you to do it. You must accept full responsibility for the deception. The reason this is, A, it's what an adult does. B, if you want fully and completely power over your future, you want power over your present, that means you must accept responsibility for your past. The moment you accept responsibility for your past, your power over your future suddenly unfolds. And that's the hardest truth. People, oh no, but they did this. Yeah, well, you signed here. Yeah, but I didn't know it. Yeah. Let it go, accept responsibility. It's your life. No one ever forced you. No one put a gun to your head, said sign this. You were always seeking benefits. You were always failing to do due diligence. Everyone here has a driver's license, I bet, except for me. And how many read the Motor Vehicle Act before applying for it? Actually deconstructed it and read it. Not a single one. That's how they get you. You must accept responsibility for that if you want power over your future. And the final one is figuring out what your truth is. Recognizing that it's akin to a duty. And when you do your duty, and with responsibility, and with a heart, holy mackerel, dude, you're not dealing anymore with cops who want to enforce any of these words on you. Suddenly, you're the master, they are the servant, and they recognize it. It's about love, it's about responsibility, it's about duty. See, and here you all are waiting for a punchline. Naked man. So the process for securing your security, first identify where you want to be. Make a list and say, okay, in 3 months from now, 6 months from now, wherever, I am going to be here. The process then, you want to get to this point where you're going to essentially build a house on high ground. That roof is your claim of right. You want to establish what your claim of right is. The claim of right, that's going to need walls, and those walls are your notice of intent. Walls need foundation. That is your notice of understanding. The high ground, that is your courtesy letter. Your first step should be to establish where you want to get to. Write down, these are my rights. Once you know what your rights are, once you feel what they are, you then must be able to express them and articulate them. You can't just say, I've got a right to poke you in the eye because I like poking people in the eye. It has to be an articulable, logical, reasonable explanation as to why these things exist. Once you have that, you express your understanding, you write a courtesy letter to these people, tell them what you're going to be doing. And I've got examples for you. We can pull one out and you guys can read it out. I wanted to print a bunch of stuff up, but I didn't know I was going to be here either, eh? The universe, it just blows me here and there. As long as there's beers and chicken wings, I'm pretty happy. I knew you'd like that, mister. Essentially, all you're going to be doing is writing a letter. Now, you are going to be making a demand on the man who is holding your property, your security in trust. You are going to be making that demand publicly and with the Queen watching, so that if he doesn't act, you're fighting a bully. I'll give you, maybe I should tell the story. I don't know. You want to hear a funny little story from my bully fighting high school days? There's a guy by the name, I don't want to mention his name, it might be on the internet, but Tim Perry would know himself. Oops. As you can imagine, I had a pretty big mouth in high school, eh? And not too many friends. And I get off the bus, Tim Perry's there with all his whole crew. He was in a year or two above me, and he was like 3 p.m. We're fighting in the playground, or in the, where did he say? Yeah, behind the workshop. We're fighting behind the workshop. I'm like, oh man, and I was all scared. Eh? For the first period, I had a great big knot in my belly. I'm terrified. I couldn't think. Sweating. You get scared. I walked out of my classroom. There he is, and he wants to push the button again. He goes, oh no, remember 3 p.m. we're going to fight. I was so mad. I just went wham. I punched him right in the gut. He fell. I ran. I made my way to class, and I made my way to class, and I'm like, holy mackerel, the knot in my belly is gone. That actually felt pretty good. I started thinking, oh, okay, that's a little bit better. Lunchtime rolls around. I'm thinking he's going to be looking for me. He's going to be hunting me with his friends. So I didn't want to square off with them. I went to the library, the audiovisual room, because I know that bullies' audiovisual equipment is like kryptonite to Superman, right? They just don't like technical shit. So I'm hiding in there. I come out, just as the bell rings, I'm going in there, round the corner, there he is. And I'm like, holy mackerel, he was surprised to see me, I was surprised to see him. I went, boom! I kicked him right in the nuts. Hard. He folded. I ran. I'm in class now, and I'm thinking, this is actually a workable strategy. Second to last class, French. I tell the teacher, yeah, I gotta go to the washroom. I get out of class 5 minutes early. I position myself outside of his shop class where I knew he was. I'm standing there. Now it's not an accident. As soon as he walked out, I smoked him right in the face. I ran. By the time 3 o'clock came around, I had hit him 3 times. At 3:15, was he in the playground there ready to fight? I have no idea. I was on the bus. I'm not letting him tell me when and where I'm going to fight. If he wants to fight me, we'll fight. I decide the rest. The next morning, I'm thinking, well, man, I'm dead. I'm so dead. He's going to be on me. I lived in Windsor, right across from Detroit. And the Detroit Tigers, they used to do these promotional things where you get these little mini bats, eh? And they give them out at like baseball games before they figured out it was a pretty stupid idea to give clubs to angry sports fans in Detroit. But I had this little mini bat, so I had that up in my sleeve and I was ready to square off. I'm getting off the bus, I'm thinking we're gonna square off, I'm cracking a head or two first. I get off, he's not around. I'm thinking, oh well. I go around, he's in the smoking area. He's only there with 2 other guys, not his crew of 10 anymore. He had lost a bit of juice. So I put down my bags, I grabbed my bat, I didn't produce it, I'm just holding it. So are we on again for 3:15 today? He didn't say anything, he just walked away. The point is, if someone wants to fight you, there's very little you can do about that, often. But don't ever let them decide when, where, and how. That's on you. If you're going to fight the government, you want to fight them, they want your tax money, go after something else. Don't think of it like fighting a wood chipper. You don't go to the chewy parts and try punching it, do you? No, you stand back, you look at it, you go, oh, look, there's some gears there, an axle, oh, look, it needs oil. What happens if I turn that off? Never, ever, ever fight your opponent when and where and how they instruct you to fight them. You're just going to lose every time. So what we're doing is you place a demand on the Minister of Finance for the return of your security. We're going to be mentioning Section 1 of the Bill of Rights. Life, liberty, security of the person. And that's all you're looking for. Your life, your liberty. Dude, if you're worth 10 million bucks and that security is generating 400 grand a year, isn't that life? Isn't that liberty? Don't you have a right for it? And bear in mind, the law is actually, people think the law is very ambiguous. It is not. The law is extraordinarily precise language. It's a very technical, very precise language, and it's the ambiguity that helps make it precise. If they wanted to say that if this was security, that security meant safety or protection, they would use those words. They cannot use the word security without it meaning security. And when you look up the definition of security, it's a physical document. You make a demand on the Minister of Finance to return that to you. You will express to him, and you're going to do it very publicly and make sure the Queen is aware so that they know the Queen is aware. You fight the bully, you let the whole school see. You know what bullies hate more than anything? They hate to see you laughing and walking away from them. They hate that, boy, I tell you. And if they're going to chase you, run around the corner. Stop. Hit them as they come around, then keep running. Bullies tend to run fast around corners. They're not the smartest people, eh? Chasing me around a corner, that's a pretty good way to get laid out. So you serve your notice on them, your notice of understanding and intent, your claim of right. You express a courtesy letter to them. You're closing a trust. You're telling them, listen, I'm not letting you hold my security in anymore because basically I don't trust you. Sword. You're fired. We're breaking up. Give me what's mine. Be nice and explain it so that everyone who reads it can understand what's going on. Once you secure that, or you make your claim of right under Section 337 of the Criminal Code, and in this claim, because there's a maximum in law and equity that states that which ought to be done must be seen as having been done. If someone is holding your shares, your securities, and they have the ability, because of that, to collect dividends and vote on mergers and partnerships and unions, if you demand the return of that so that you can exercise your ability to vote, it's not a function of them now delivering it and then you having the power to vote. You have taken away their power because you made that demand. The moment people start making these demands, their ability to merge with the United States is going to be squashed. One outstanding share that didn't get their voting rights will nullify the vote. Because if there's one, there might be 51%. This is the way we have to stop the North American Union, the Security Prosperity Partnership, be rich and be abundant and be free, and it's entirely lawful, it's very easy, and it's all there right in front of you, and you would see it if you read Section 330. Just read those parts I told you. It's all right there. It's like little pieces of a puzzle. See how well they fit together, and tell me you don't see what I see, because I see it clear as day now. Any questions? I know I should be funnier, and my voice is sort of. Yes, ma'am.
Does it matter how old you are to claim your rights?
No.
So you can do it with the children?
Well, I would say at that age, either 13 or 16 would be the ones that I could point to, where, like in Judaism, a 13-year-old certainly has certain powers. From my perspective, I would say it's 16, but you can claim this for those whom you're providing parenting to, if that's your concern. Yes, you can claim it for them.
Do you consider the birth certificate to be a security or evidence of a security?
Evidence of a security, evidence of a trust.
Do you think you can accept, what do you think of this accepting the birth certificate for value?
I don't understand what they're doing with that. I know that it evidences your security certificate, and we should be turning that in for our security. So whatever you write on it is far less important than what you get in exchange.
So have you done this?
I'm doing it now. I uncovered this about 3 weeks ago. I spoke with the Minister of Finance today, or the Minister of Finance's office. I spoke with my sister about it, and I have I've prepared our notice of understanding and intent and the claim of right, and I'm serving it on the Minister on Friday. I'm going to be in his office.
This notice will be available to us?
What's that?
The notice of intent will be available to us?
Yes. What I would caution though is don't use a notice of understanding and intent unless you actually have the understanding. If there's something there that you don't understand and you try carrying it, they get it, knock it out of your hand, you fail. Your understanding does not have to be as large as mine might appear to be. I have seen very powerful notices of understanding and intent. That was one page. It was like a kid wrote it on with crayon on a napkin almost. It essentially said, I've looked in my own heart. I found that love is my biggest law. I then looked at your words. I didn't find the word love. So your words can't be my law, and I'm not going to be bound by them. Thank you, have a good day. If you got a problem, then. They didn't respond, and that was it. It can be that simple.
How long have you had this insight into this? Is a new thing for you to...
Yeah, it just came out with, well, I saw how it all folds in about 3-4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago.
Was that the tomato fight email?
Yeah, the tomato fight. The rotten tomato fight.
Yeah.
How many read that?
We got to get it.
I want to kick the shit out of Robin Belanger, I'll tell you that. I know I'm supposed to be nice. No, I tease him. He's got his perspective. God works in funny ways. And with very funny people, apparently. That was funny. I'm talking about me too. Any other questions? My voice is starting to run out here. No, you've had 2 already, mister.
I wanted to ask you about it. I know of this one child that's here in the city, and she has never been registered with a birth certificate or anything like that.
Right?
Does anybody have any control over her?
The parents would have the common law control. My brother Robert Christie, he's got a new baby girl, Aurora, and he served notice in the paper, and these people that you're talking about, I don't know if they serve notice. You don't try flying under the radar. Enemies fly under the radar, they'll attack you. You fly right through the radar, great big smiling grin, hi, here I am, come fight me if you want, but wait a minute, I'm on side. Robert Christie and his wife, they served notice in a number of papers. They served notice on the government saying this is a free sovereign child born. We have all the power. You have nothing. Stay away. And they had their pictures. It's pretty sweet actually. A picture of themselves and their little boy and their new baby girl saying this is a sovereign child, unregistered. You have no power. Stay away.
But now when it comes time that child
Stand up, because they can't hear you. Stand up, can't hear you.
Speak up.
when it comes time that child ends up being sick and goes to the hospital, are they allowed to refuse them medical care?
No.
Well, see,
No,
that's-
you're right. Your right to medical services in Canada has absolutely nothing to do with how much or what type of insurance you have. And what I do is I go to them and like I broke my elbow once. Hurt like a mother too, I'll tell you. My sister said it was worse than childbirth, so I don't want to hear anything from you women about it. But I went in and I said, you have a duty to fix me. They fixed me. I said, give me a bill. Just bill me. But they won't bill you. And they can't really bill you. And if they did, I just send it to the government and say, take care of this. Because we're so rich. The value of Canada is beyond measure. We are the richest country on the planet. Look at the mass of the property. Look at all the resources that are there, either one time or continually extractable. Look at the number of people, how few we are. Holy mackerel, we are so rich. I want to run for office on a platform that says we should get rid of stairs. No stairs in Canada because we got so much room we should be building up. We're going to outlaw stairs.
Bathroom break or whatever, and then we'll come back to meeting again. It's up to you.
Yeah, no, I don't know about that. You're asking for me to run 2 laps instead of just 1, really. Actually, let's do that. Let's have a little break. I'll have a cigarette and a beer, and if you guys can come up with any questions, yeah?
Just before the break, if you're not natural born Canadian, your birth certificate,
Right?
what do we use? That's always been an issue. I'm never sure.
What I see is that, A, you still have all the same human rights. Now imagine a corporation. A lot of corporations have different types of stock, the voting and non-voting stock. What I see as the only logical position would be that there would be 2 types of stock. They would all collect the same amount of dividends, but only those who are born in Canada would have voting shares. Those who have moved here would have to have non-voting shares because it makes absolutely no sense to allow someone to come to Canada and then vote on whether or not there's a merger between Canada and potentially the country that they came from. You would destroy your own country in very short order that way. And from what I've looked into, that's what it is. It's a function of not the value of the stock, that's identical, because your value as a human being is identical, but whether or not you can vote on mergers and unions.
But what document would you use? Like, if it's not returned as a birth certificate?
Yeah, I would use your card that establishes you as a permanent resident, I believe they call it now, and a notice of understanding and intent and a claim of right. Because you are an individual, and the Bill of Rights says every individual has the right to life, liberty, and the security of the person. So unless your ability unless your right to life is less than mine, your right to the security of the person must be just as great.
Do you have any insight on why the crown disappeared off the queen on the money? Does that have anything to do with that thing you were talking about, them going to
bad artistry, because I was shown that previously that had happened as well. I thought it meant something as well, and I looked into it, and apparently it has very little bearing, if any. And regardless of whether or not it does, it might, but it certainly doesn't have anything to do with you serving and collecting your security and being a freeman. So I don't know. I know she's my sister. I got my crown.
Will you be posting all of this information on the internet when you do finish?
No, but I'll try to sell you guys some packages.
No, when you finish this process that you're going to be going through.
No, I'm teasing you. We are making it online. It's available if you go to thinkfree.ca, go to the forum, and on the forum under the thread documents being served, look for Robert Christie's, and that's the one that we're collaborating on, that we're serving to secure security and the right to travel, because we're serving it on all of the de facto governments in the Commonwealth. So we're claiming the right to travel within the Commonwealth as freely as the Queen does. We'll pay our own way, but we get to cross your border and you can't stop us.
That's cool.
It's a pretty powerful document, dude. We've been putting some energy into it. Okay, so come back in half an hour?
Yeah, let's take a break.
Okay, did we have a nice break? Yeah. Who had some chicken wings? I saw some tasty chicken wings. Court is now in session. I don't know that I had much more to share with you guys. I really have my whole show set up and my voice ain't working. But if you guys have questions, if there's anything I can help you guys with, fire away, I guess. Try to speak up so everyone else can hear you. Or actually come up here, talk into the mic. Let's share this. Come on, share the juice. That'll hold down the frivolous questions.
What I wanted to ask, in the case of credit card companies, when they get to a certain point, they're going to send a statement of claim against you. What can you do to prevent the actual statement of claim going against you? Okay, thanks. Yeah.
So you're concerned about them making a statement of claim, but where is that statement of claim going to be filed? It's going to be filed in one of the courts. They're going to go to court and seek action against you, and they're going to try to get an order of the court demanding that you perform or meet some form of obligation. If before you get there, you establish lawful excuse to disobey that court so that the order has no effect on you anyways, that judge is not going to want to see them at all. You only go there once or twice, if that. They live there. They need these courts on their side. What you do is you establish lawful excuse to disobey the court before they ever even file the statement of claim. And you do that by serving a claim of right on them. The credit card company that's demanding payment or performance. That's what I would suggest. Expand the conflict so that you see where they're going, what they're intending to do, and pull the rug out from under them.
Robert, would be lawful excuse that you use the so-called credit as an out
Gotta go up
of
to the front.
necessity.
I'm sorry?
You use the credit out of necessity for your
I don't know about that. I don't see any necessity there. And all you're doing is, the claim of right that I would put is essentially show me where you lost anything. When was the money generated? Show me your loss. If you can't do that, you have no right. Because I don't want to, teach people or show people that there's a path how they can dishonor actual obligations. If you bought a big screen TV, I mean, that's not a necessity. And you should be paying for that personally in my book, one way or another. But I think you should be paying for it by seizing your security and saying, okay, I'm going to spend some of my money on that.
You talk about parking tickets and speeding tickets being bills of exchange. Where would I go to confirm that?
They're not a bill of exchange, but they are operating under the Bill of Exchange Act, and they are bound by it. It's a notice, and what you're trying to do is say, okay, you've given me the notice, now give me the bill. If someone says to you, you owe them money, and then you say, okay, I will accept that if you show me a bill, and they can't show you a bill, you don't owe them money.
So if I look at the Bill of Exchange Act and I read the definition, just pay, drive.
It's an unconditional order in writing addressed by one person to another, signed by the person giving it, requiring the person to whom it is addressed to pay upon demand or a fixed and determinable time of some certain money to the bearer, a third party. Well, you guys can't do that? Spark up, boys, that works in court, man, I tell you. Oh, shit.
So if I take that definition and anything that fits that definition would fall under that definition, whether it's court order, court judgment, parking tickets, all of that. Because,
Yes.
Because when I look at this, I say, it fits it, but will they define it as that?
You don't worry about whether or not they will define it.
Okay.
You define it and let them dispute it. If they don't, they accept. We have been fully conditioned into thinking that, okay, how do I get them to allow me to do this? How do I get them to agree? You don't allow them to allow you. You say, how can they disallow me? How can they disprove my claim? Don't seek permission from these people. Don't make complaints. Make a claim. A complaint can be dismissed. A claim cannot. And look at the definition and just weigh it and say, these are the attributes of a bill of exchange. Do they exist here? And if you look, they're right there.
I have read the Bill of Exchange Act.
Have you?
Yeah.
So few have, man, I'll tell you. Bill of what act?
The question came up during the break. How does a young person get around an employer's demand to have a SIN number?
Instead of operating, we realize what's happening. You're going to this employer and you're saying, I'm going to work for you, but I'm doing it as an agent of the government. It's kind of like one of those temporary employment agencies where you go during the day, they set you up with a job, but because they set you up with that job, they're actually, the people who hire you aren't hiring you, they're hiring an agent from this company. Therefore, you owe money to that company for that day. That's called a contract for service, where they are contracting with you or with your employer for your services. That's what the SIN card is. You have an opportunity and a right to operate under a contract for hire where there is no one, you're not anyone's employer or employee, and you're not allowing this employer to provide services to the third party through you. It's just you contracting mano a mano. And that's how we do it. It's a contract for hire. It's a two-party contract. Right, there is one question over there.
Could you expand on the role of notaries in this process and what they do, how you find them, and how you encourage them to actually help you in this?
Yes, I could. Any other questions? You need to ask proper questions. A notary public, what I found in British Columbia, the notary public under Section 18 of the Notary Act, and you will find this in a whole bunch of different acts. You would have to search for it in Ontario. I'm not sure it's here, but I found it in Florida, California, a whole whack of different states, and a couple of provinces as well. It states in BC that a notary public may perform any of the duties found under any statute. They have as much power as any cop, any judge, anyone. If you wanted to sue the Law Society, the courts, and the government all at the same time, where would you go? You can't go sue the courts and the courts, you can't go sue the government and the government, but the notary public has that power. They are the perfect witness. They are the one, because the law is about facts and the application of the law to those facts. Determine the facts before you go into court, so that judge has no say as to what the facts are and is not. Here it is, all established. You take all sorts of power away from them, because now all they can do is apply the law to the facts. The purpose of that notary is so that when you go through the process, you make your demand, you have a witness who did it. You have, when you serve your notice of understanding and intent and your claim of right, you have a witness who did it. Since they have the power to generate, if you look at my ID over there, it's a photo affidavit. It's my photo on it, but it's an affidavit of a notary public, establishing that I am a free man on the land. This is the name he knows me by, and I'm a pretty peaceful guy, That notary public has as much power as any judge, anyone who issues any ID. Whatever your representatives can do, that notary can do as well. The reason that he has a lot of power, if you just wanted to establish the facts, you could, if you wanted, use 3 people of good standing within your community. They, however, cannot craft a court order which the sheriff's deputies will respond to and will take as a court order and go seize property. They'll look at it and laugh. A notary's judgment, they act on.
One of the things that's come up in Ontario is all the notaries are lawyers.
Yeah?
And it's a bit of an old boy network, and people have run into problems where they...
Look through their act and find the word duty. Hold them to their duty. And if they refuse to do it, then again, there's always remedy. You serve on them a notice of understanding and intent and a claim of right. We hire firefighters to fight fires in our communities. If, however, they start refusing to fight the fire and your house is burning down and they say, ah, well, we're busy, we just don't want to do it. At what point in time did you ever give up your right to fight your own fire? You can serve a notice on them saying, listen, justice must be served, and this is what we're doing in BC. I'm setting up someone to act as a notary because there's nothing in the Notary Act that says only members of the Notary Society can provide notarial services. All it says is only these notaries can be governed by the Notary Society. You have all the power in the world. You can find someone to start providing these notarial services. And if they refuse to do it, I bring notice and claim against them.
Where do I go to find confirmation that 3 witnesses equal the notary?
Again, you're seeking confirmation. Why not make a claim to the notary and see if they dispute it? Okay. If they don't dispute it, there's your confirmation. Tell them.
Is there a difference between a notary in the United States and a Canadian notary, and can they do equal?
For establishing what the facts are, no. But for generating a court order that the sheriffs will act upon if you wanted to go seize someone's vehicle, yes. No one outside of Canada is going to generate an order that's going to bind these people. You can establish the truth with it, but that's about it.
If one were to receive a presentment, say roadside speeding ticket, parking, seatbelt, whatever, what can be done in the first 72 hours to end the matter?
From what I found, it's all a transaction of a security interest. A transaction of a security interest is very much like a contract in the way that monopoly money is like money in your pocket. They don't call it a contract because it's not a contract. It can create obligations to either pay or perform just like a contract would, but they can't call it a contract because they're all de facto anyways. You have every remedy that would be available to you in the common law when it comes to contracts is available to you now when you're dealing with these transactions of a security interest, and they require consent. It is evidence of you agreeing with them for whatever reason. Within that 3 days, you do have the power to rescind it. You send in a notice to them and you say, look, no, I changed my mind. I'm not bound by it. And it is that easy. They don't like it, they might come after you, and doing what I've been doing, I went to jail like 9 times. I mean, they tried to intimidate me, they made me drop my pants, bend over, and tried to do a full cavity search, held me over, over a weekend, and all of it just to see whether or not I would fold. They had no power, no right to do that, but I just left smiling and going, oh, I learned a lot about the way you do business, wait till I tell people. If you keep it, they might test you a couple of times, but again, once they see that you're doing it with the heart, not with the anger, and you're saying, oh, this, if you're just telling them, listen, I love Canada, this is my Canada, I don't like what you're doing, I'm following my heart, and I have these questions. People make mistakes when they deal with the cops because they tend to try to say, they try to make declaratory statements where they say, you can't do that, this is a transaction of a security interest, you generate conflict right there. Always ask questions. Questions are evidence of a mind that is trying to discern, trying to distinguish. It must be recognized that the law recognizes if you're asking questions, it's evidence that you do not understand, that you're trying to in order to serve the law. You step into the crap when you start making a declarative statement. You can, instead of saying, is that a transaction of a security interest, which empowers you, you say to the cop, that's a transaction of a security interest, and now you failed. And it's that simple. Always ask questions. And that's what I would do. You got 3 days, write him notice. Say, sorry, you scared me, you had a gun, and I'm saying no to the transaction of a security interest. I claim I have a right to do so. If you don't believe I have a right to do so, please answer these questions. And you hit them with questions. 20 questions that they have to answer, and if they can't answer, they lose the ability to claim that they were acting lawfully. If they weren't acting lawfully, the demand is void ab initio.
You say that there's differences, or there is differences between Ontario law, BC law, and two other places.
There is no difference in the law. There is a difference in the statutes.
Is there a book or a source that you can interchange things, like cross-reference?
Yeah, it's called your brain. There's no easy fix, buddy. You gotta, to a large degree, understanding the law is like realizing that there's one picture you want to get to, and imagine a puzzle. Now imagine a box of puzzles, and they have taken the pieces from this one puzzle and they hid one here, one here, one here. You've got to assemble this box, this box, this box, see what pieces are left over, and then you do the other puzzle. Here's where it gets easy though. Don't try studying the deception. You will spend your whole life studying the deception. It's the truth that is going to free you. The truth is kind of like a garden in a forest of deception. Find that garden, stand there, and you will come to the point where the deception doesn't affect you anymore. They're just people using words. Who are they? Who are you to hire them and empower them over me? It all rests on us saying, yes, okay. And you know what I see? When you were a kid, when we were kids, we all had the power to say something very empowering. And we lose it in high school somehow. You're not the boss of me. By the time you're done high school, oh yes, what do you want me to do? When do we lose that? Get to the point where you realize you're not the boss of me. Operate on that and see whether or not they can be the boss of you without your consent. It's common law jurisdiction. How can I be your boss without your consent? How can I hire anyone to be your boss without your consent? How can I create a body of words, call it law, and then apply it to you and use it to extract pretty much half your life's energy if it's not with your consent?
Since Canada is
It's David Icke.
Since Canada is registered as a corporation with the SEC, wouldn't it be better to go to the SEC to claim your shares rather than the Minister of Finance?
No, because the SEC isn't bound by Section 337, whereas the minister is. You could certainly gum up their gears, and they are an organization that I would make aware of the demand. And a good eye on that. I think we'll add that if it's not already there, but I think they're being served already on that demand, so that they know, hey, halt all trading and all everything on this pending the resolution of this. But the SEC, you can't throw in jail for 13 or 14 years if they refuse to give it.
Also, in the letter that you send them, would it not also be a good idea, because you are a shareholder, to...
You're not a shareholder yet. You're a share owner.
Well, okay, but once you get to that point, to let them know, okay, if there's any votes that need to be done on, for notice.
Oh, they have to. That's a function of law. Once you're the shareholder, they have to do that.
And then they would also send you the, what is this, the portfolio for the corporation?
What I'm expecting is my security and a list of all the transactions, everything that, from day one of its creation and existence. I want full and complete accounting. That's fine. I'll read it.
I'm gonna go home and speak to my best friend about this incredible information that you brought to us tonight.
Your best friend lives in your home?
Quite a bit at
That's
a time,
sweet.
actually.
He comes over for breakfast, stole my key. I have a friend, no, I am a friend like that. Go on.
What would you have me tell him that would convince someone who is still asleep about this magnificent deception?
I wouldn't. I don't take that obligation at all. When he wants to sleep, let him sleep.
There you go.
What I would suggest is you find your own path, show him the security, say, look at my check, go back to sleep. Watch him wake up pretty quick.
What can you do after 3 days? Because I got 3 tickets. I didn't know about the 3-day rule.
You can only operate on the information that you have. The presumption after the 3 days is that you agreed to it. Serve them notice. Again, people ask me, what do I do for this situation? What do I do for this? I tell them it's always the same thing. You have to have an understanding. You have to have an intent. You have to have a right. You have to express your understanding. You have to express your intent. You have to claim your right. Whatever your understanding is, I can't tell you because it's your understanding. So it's up to you to do that, but that's the process. Get up, get dressed, and walk, pretty much. Tell them no.
And if you don't get dressed, you'll get arrested.
I can still say no?
You can always say no. And dude, it's section 15 of the criminal code. They're a de facto government.
Okay.
Please provide evidence that I don't have the right to disobey you merely because you're de facto.
I want to add something to that. I've noticed from a lot of people's, you get information and stories and stuff, and the most compelling ones is about people who physically walk into the court with their birth certificate in hand, and there's these amazing things that always seem to happen at the same time they do that.
Because they don't want you breaking that trust or closing the trust and getting your security. Because then suddenly they are dealing with someone who's worth 10 million bucks.
So it's a good idea to do that, eh? Bring it physically in.
I think it's a good idea to use that as a receipt and redeem it immediately, get your shares and protect this country from the Nazi tide.
I will. Thank you.
And it's not just me. I hope I'm not a paranoid guy seeing this happening in the States and you're all looking at me going, oh, I know you, they're a land of roses and honey down there.
Oh, something major's going.
You guys see it too, don't you?
Yes.
Dude, we better stand on that because I'll tell you, by the end of the year, by 2010, when the Olympics come to Vancouver, that is going to be already secured and in place and perfected unless we act now. And I say we got until the end of this year to really gum up their gears. And you can make your demand. Dudes, you could go away from here and 3-4 days from now, you could have a notice of understanding and intent, a claim of right, and a demand for those securities. And you can go to any lawyer. Go to a lawyer and say, listen, there's a company. Don't tell them the name of the company. Don't tell them who's holding your stock in trust. Just say, hi, there's someone holding my stock in trust in the company I own, and I want it. And they don't want to give it to me. Can you get it for me? Yes, I can. Here you go. Here's the information. Go get it, mister. It will be the best money you ever spend on a lawyer, and they will be bound by it. And if they fail to do it, you got them right by their rat sack balls, man. Pardon my language, ladies. You're laughing now, aren't you? You're all shake because you're laughing at rat sack balls. Any other questions, or can I again kind of tell my throat's killing me?
The calls and we're trying
don't talk like that. Change that. There is no the government, there is no spoon. When someone playing the role of a government agent, focus on that, because you disempower yourself. There is no wizard.
Well, when those boys call, they're trying to get you to pay for a student loan, how do you handle those calls?
Put it in writing.
Send the bill.
Send me an affidavit. Essentially, you know what they used to call it well, they call it testify, because what they used to do was guys would walk right up and they would put their testicles on the table. And if you got caught lying, what do you think the hammer was for? Swear to God that was the law. If you lied, whack. That's why women couldn't testify. That's where the word comes from. You lost your testicles if you lied. The whole game of law is pretty much, pardon the language, dick on the table, let's play smack dick. If they don't want to put their dick on the table, they have no standing. It's true, check it out. That's where the word testify comes from. You would lose your testicles if you were lying under oath. That's why we take that pretty seriously, I gotta tell you. How many didn't know that? You think I'm just making that up, don't you? Swear to God, I am not making that up. That's where the law came from. That's what they used to do. If they caught you perjuring yourself, lying under oath like that, you lost your balls. Right then, right there. You'd stand there talking to each other.
What did they do the second time you lied?
Well, you'd never come to the table again. You lost your balls. You got nothing to put on the table, sorry. And that's why women weren't allowed to testify. There was nothing to hit them with. There was nothing they could lose. There was no concept of titsify. Okay, I guess I'm done. And for the package, for those of you who are interested in helping to support the Think Free crew, the packages that we got available, they're pretty pumped up. I'm pretty happy with them. There's a bunch of DVDs, The Magnificent Deception, Bursting Bubbles with Lawful Excuse, Luke Denis on Money, and then the collection of a couple of ones where I'm making phone calls to the Security Exchange Commission and the CRA. And then there's some printed books. Letters from a Free Man with Lawful Excuse. There is the new claim that we're using and making that we're trying to bust open this. We're trying to pave the path for you guys. So you guys can come through and claim your security as well. And then there is a short dancing dwarf that comes out of the... No, that's... we said no to that, actually. There were logistics problems. And yeah, and then some DVDs. There's Black's Law Dictionary 1 and 2, Think Free CD-ROM, and then my new With Lawful Excuse, a big magical book that I couldn't afford to get printed up because when I created it, I just went nuts. And then I said, okay, let's make it fun. But now getting it printed, they want $90 a copy to print it up. I went crazy with the color. Oh yeah, Letters from a Free Man. It's all sample letters. Some of them are funny too. I get cocky. Who here has seen the notice? I've noticed your notice. That works too. And they send you a notice. Luke Denis did this. Got a notice. He said, so I wrote a letter for him. Here's my notice. With this notice, I hope you notice I've noticed your notice. In noticing your notice, I hope you notice my notice of your notice, and that this notice will bring you notice. So, and I used it all properly. I hit him with like 30 notices in 2 sentences. He got a letter back from the clerk. Well, I hope the judge likes your flippant attitude, because this is what I'm doing. So he wrote back, did you not notice my notice? You can have fun with these guys, man. They're just people using words. They're trying to suck your energy because it's a whole lot easier to get someone to work a field twice the size they should they're getting you to work their field and bring them the goods instead of you saying, I'll work my field, you work yours.
When you get thrown into jail, for example, you said you've been there
Something like that.
Something like that. How'd you get thrown out?
That's awful fun sometimes, because sometimes sign here and we'll let you go. No. What, you want to stay here? No, you're holding me unlawfully. Of course I don't want to stay here. You've abducted me, but I'm not signing to justify your actions. And it came down once. I've had some fun with them, because they always want a promise to appear or something like that. I said, I'll sign it, but I'm not making any promises. Well, it's a promise to appear. Yeah, well, that's what you call it, and you're calling this a signature, but that's not evidence of an oath. It's just a scribble on a paper. And one guy said, well, I need your address. I said, you want my present address? Yeah, I went 222 Main Street. That was the address of the jail they were holding me in. Is that not where I'm at right now? You get out. And mind you, this was a couple of years ago before, I've been standing my ground for a while now. So now the cops know me, and it doesn't happen like that. If I do get arrested, they generally act with a lot more restraint. They know I bring peace. And incidentally, I'll give you a little advice. If you're dealing with cops, if you're following this path, you're going to be locking horns at some point in some manner. Deal with them as human beings with compassion and address their primary concern first. What's their primary concern?
Their security.
Their security.
That's right. Are they getting shot from you? Are they making it home? Address that right off the bat. Promise them God's peace, or wish them God's peace. Promise them your own. It changes the whole dynamic when you deal with these people. The things that you want to share with them, they might think that you're nutty, but if you say, listen, you might think I'm nutty, but I promise you peace. Take that away from them, suddenly they will be open to listening to what you have to say. If at that point you are not making declarative statements, you're making interrogatories and asking them, well, what about this? What about this? And you ask the proper questions, you plant seeds in their brains, and they will look into it, and dude, it's working. But avoid the declarative statements. That's how you kick yourself every time.